Aloha Aquascaping World, this is Stephen Chong. Stevescapes here on YouTube and on Instagram. Today I'm here to bring you part 2 of a 3-part series looking at Undying, my 2020 IAPLC 2020 Aquascape ranked 2 in the world gold prize. Today's video is going to be focusing on the hardscape construction, the materials and techniques I used to put together the main infrastructure, the framework of the layout. I definitely recommend you check out part 1, which was about the what, the why, the different themes, ideas, the 7 months of work that went into putting together the concept of the aquascape before actually getting into the hardscape construction. That will be a good video to watch because it'll help you understand the why it is that I'm doing things, why I'm putting together the layout like this when I'm putting the hardscape together. So I definitely recommend checking that out. There'll be a link in the description. So before I dive into it, let me thank everyone for watching part 1 and for joining my channel. In the last week since the IAPLC announcement, there's been plus 600, 700, 800 of you new subscribers to the channel. I want to welcome all of you and also apologize to my new subscribers, some of whom are not yet used to my style and my video quality. Guys, I'm not a full-time YouTuber. I have a job and 2 kids, and of course, my number one hobby passion is the competitive aquascaping itself. Old-time subscribers have already forgiven me for having kind of sucky video quality, but this is kind of where the channel is going to be and where it's going to stay going forward. But for those who are interested in my perspective, want to learn a bit about competitive aquascaping and the work that goes into it, thank you for joining the channel and staying with us. And now I'm going to dive into the main discussion of the hardscape. So let's jump into the conversation about the actual construction of the aquascape, starting off with the materials. This was my suitcase back in November of last year when I went to China as the Japanese representative at the China International Pet Show CIPS contest. I got to go and make a live contest aquascape at the event in Shanghai. But when I was coming back, I made sure to swing by a market and pick up a ton of wood because materials are just so much cheaper in China than in Japan and in many of the European or Western countries. I mean, I can't speak to too many of the other markets, but like in different parts of Southeast Asia and obviously in China, the cost and the quality of materials is just totally different from other places. So getting that chance to go to China before making this aquascape, I already kind of had an idea of what I want to do, so I made sure to stock up. That being said, I only used the wood from China for about 30% of the aquascape. 65% of it, 65% of it is manzanita from the United States. This is a picture of the Tokyo Aquascaping team back in, I want to say, 2017, 2018. I knew that I was going to need wood for my 2018 Aquascape Butterfly Hideaway. I wasn't sure at the time how much I was going to need, but I knew I would need some. So I contacted Tom Barr, and he set us up with a ton of wood. You can see all of us here with our individual boxes. I really didn't get to use a whole bulk of this until this aquascape in 2020, but this is the source material. You can see Fukada-san also here with a ton of the manzanita. That is the main hardscape material for his 2020 layout as well. Go check that out. Green Clouds, rank 33. So the first thing I want to do is give a quick breakdown of the aquascape itself. I am a student of Fukada Takayuki in the Tokyo Aquascaping Union. Fukada-san is a well-known competitive aquascaper, 2-time champion, and his work has been a big influence on me. This is definitely a layout within the Fukada-san school. Everything in the aquascape is meant to highlight the main viewpoint of the work. All lines in the work bring you directly to this space and are meant to show off, an intricate and beautiful world within the viewpoint here in the aquascape. Additionally, there are several pathways on the ground, following sand or following the mirror itself that lead you to the viewpoint. One on the outside of the piece of wood, one on the inside. Both of them, though, intersecting here in the middle. All of these, along with big shadows on both sides, that create huge impact. These are the major tenets of the Fukada school, and this aquascape is definitely within that tradition. So how this layout was actually put together, I want to say in about December. This is an illustration of the aquascape that I made back in December of 2019. You can see that I've already had a really good idea of what I want to do. I did show this illustration to members of the Tokyo Aquascaping Union as well as the Aquascapers Collective, the North American group of competitive layouters that I work with. Most of the members, I want to say though, probably didn't think that I was going for anything anywhere near literal like this. Like there were people who didn't notice that I was going to use mirrors based on this picture. There were folks who thought that it was just an image and I wasn't actually literally going to be able to make a framework of wood this dynamic. Oh, well, I guess Steven is hoping that he's going to be able to find pieces of wood that look like this. And this is kind of an approximation, an illustration. No, guys, when I want to make something, I make it. I can make it extremely close to what I imagine it being. That's why Fukada-san and Ono-san, when they saw this picture, they knew that this was going to be pretty close to whatever this final picture was. The final aquascape was going to be pretty similar. So they gave me very finely tuned, honed adjustments. Things like thickening up shadows in certain places and the distribution of white. I put together a strategy based on their feedback and made some minor adjustments, but important minor adjustments to the final illustration before moving on. I want to show you in the next page. This is a picture of me starting off the process. You can see that I have mapped my work onto the glass, and you can see that yes, my woodwork is actually fitting into the lines. If I think it, if I imagine it, I can make it, and I'm going to make it. That is the attitude. If you want to be a very powerful, dynamic aquascaper who can really master the Giorama style aquascape, you have to have this skill, this attitude that it's not a matter of finding the right piece, hopefully that will fit my image. It's that I have the skills, the materials, the guts, and the know-how to build literally anything I want, and that is what I'm going to do. So you can see me fitting the base, the most important materials into the shape of the aquascape. Moving on to the next page, you see that I'm making a framework of manzanita that is fitting the lines and fitting the shape together, and then I'm filling in the gaps. With different pieces of wood, whatever will fit, but also actually some rock, like the lava stones that I used in most of my previous layouts. I've actually built some of that into the structure of the wood in order to make all of it heavy. Even when I filled the tank, this didn't move at all, but you also couldn't see any of the wood materials I used because of the way it's built, hiding pieces into the base of the aquascape or into different sections of the framework, to keep the overall weight of the structure as well as the strength and consistency of the structure put together such that I knew it would be fine once I filled the tank. I do take a certain pride that this was the first wood major aquascape that I've made. Up until now, my layouts were 80 to even 100% stone, and wood was kind of like a decorative material to be used on top. But making a major structure out of wood into the shape I wanted, building the frame, the base, most of the material, key to the aquascape out of wood. It was something new to me, and there was a bit of a learning curve at first, but frankly, like the skills and the attitude that you need in order to realize the design that you want, it's not so different between wood and stone, so getting the hang of it wasn't too tough. Moving on. So I thought this would be a good photo to include to give you guys an idea of my actual technique for using illustration on glass, using illustration on the aquascape. You can see that there's two pieces of plastic actually attached to the glass, one on the inside of the aquarium and one on the outside of the aquarium. Now you can probably guess the one on the inside is there to protect the glass itself from scratches, from accidentally injuring the glass from the inside as I'm working. This is something that I learned is really important after doing my first aquascape in 2017 with lava stone and just making tons of scratches. Things that you can find even in the 2018 and 2019 works. Get a lot of laughs and critique from my teammates whenever they notice the old marks. But this is a new aquarium, 120 50 50, a new aquascape that I changed to in order to compete at a higher level for this IAPLC 2020. I wanted to make sure that I didn't injure the glass. So there was a sheet on the inside that I've used for the past few years, and also a sheet on the outside. You can see both sheets are kind of wrinkled now from so many years of use, but they still work. Now, why is there a sheet on the outside? Of course, you could draw directly on the glass. This is dry eraser marker. Obviously, it's useful because it's easy to adjust, it's easy to erase and add on new. And of course, even if you draw on glass itself, it comes off perfectly. But the reason why I have this plastic sheet on the outside is because when you have an illustration on the aquarium, what I realized from my own attempts was that it was hard to be able to interpret what was going on the inside of the aquascape with the illustration in the way. Sometimes, even if you're, making the layout to the actual lines, you want to be able to see the details of the wood or things going on the inside. So you have those marker erasers, and, the marker lines can make it feel better than it actually is, or worse than it actually is. And the only way to really objectively see the material for the material itself is to take the illustration away. So that's what this plastic sheet on the outside does. I can take it off whenever I want to see more clearly into the aquarium, look at the material. I can put it back on the glass whenever I want to get my reference lines back. I think that this is very valuable. It's a similar concept to using layers in Photoshop, actually. So, moving on to the next picture. Here's a shot of the aquarium from a distance. You can kind of see what the framework looks like from a different angle and how it's being fit together. I wanted to point out this piece right here because I wanted to talk about it a bit. I think this is something you guys will really appreciate. This piece that I've circled here is actually removable. It is designed so that taken out or put in, it will always fit snugly in the exact same angle in the exact same place. And it will fit perfectly and snugly together such that no light comes in between. There's no openings or creasings between the piece of wood that is removable and the rest of the framework. It always fits together perfectly, seamlessly, and what it does is it gives me great access to be able to maintain the left side of the aquarium. Because otherwise, getting in here with an algae scraper or sponge or other tools needed to do maintenance is really, really difficult. But having this one piece, it's basically a triangular shape like this up here, be completely removable, it's a major help in terms of maintenance. And it wasn't so difficult to figure out design-wise, so I went ahead and did it. So moving on, here is more or less the final shape of the aquascape in terms of hardscape. To be perfectly honest, there was never, voila, final hardscape shot. So many of these great top aquascapes have just amazing hardscape shot. There's an amazing shot of the aquarium before it was planted and filled. And unfortunately, there is no final hardscape shot for this aquascape. There's no final shot, badass, 100% finished hardscape before the tank is filled. And that is because of the Green Aqua trip. Back in March of 2020, Fukara-san and I went to Green Aqua in Hungary, as well as to Aquaflora in the Netherlands. We made aquascapes in both places, did videos. I definitely recommend you check out the Green Aqua channel's vids if you haven't, as well as the vids on Philippe Olivier's channel of the aquascapes we made in the Netherlands. But because we had that trip and coming back, it's just so crunch time. I hadn't finished the hardscape yet, and I had to. It was near the end of March, and I had to get the plants in and get this thing filled. So I didn't worry about the final placement for a lot of the twigs. I knew that I was probably even going to have to adjust some parts of the main wood, but having gotten it to this stage, basically 90% complete, I said, good enough, I'll take this shot, plant the plants, and fill the tank. And you can see there's even this hand mirror right there. What this kind of makeup mirror I bought for my wife just to put into the aquarium 1 second so I could see what the reflections would look like. Yes, I was able to tell that by standing up pieces of wood in the aquascape and fitting in a mirror, I was going to be able to get the reflections I wanted. So this was the final shot before I filled the tank. And actually at this stage, you can see that I'm still fiddling around with lava rock. I haven't even switched to the white elephant stone that's going to be featured in the final version of the aquascape. There's a lot of things that you figure out partway through. But crunched for time and needing time to give plants the opportunity to grow in water, I brought it to this stage and said, okay guys, we're just going to go for it. I planted the plants, filled the tank, brought the mirrors in and adjusted them as best as I could, and got things going before the final adjustments that we're going to talk about in the third video as I get into the actual technique of placing mirror in the aquascape and building those reflections. And with that, we've covered the main material of this part 2, the content I want to talk about today. Please join us for part 3 as I get into some of the detailed technique for putting together, the mirror ponds of this aquascape that, gave the tank the wow factor it needed to achieve rank 2 in the world. Please like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys next time. Take it easy.